If you're looking for a spot to fill your stomach while staying on budget, buffets can be a wonderful option. Just remember to keep your hands to yourself.
Whoa! It's a buffet.
The golden rule of all lines is really just stick to your spot. Most of us learn this as early as preschool, but some adults still choose to break the rule of keeping their place in line. And it's really not fair to anyone you are cutting in front of, since everyone is hungry and waiting patiently. Buffets are particularly rude to butt into because one person can be the difference in missing out on a desired item. This rule goes for saving spots as well. There are no holds in a buffet line, so don't let your latecomer partner and kids step in front of you without expecting the ire of everyone behind you. There are a couple key exceptions to this golden rule though. If you've already been through the line once and want to go back for a single item, feel free to insert yourself into the line wherever that one item is.
But to make him wait another 10 minutes for a few measly potatoes? Shame on you! Shame on all of you!
The other exception is if the person in front of you is taking their sweet time choosing and holding the line up. In this case, you can go around the indecisive diner if there's plenty of space and you're quick. At any buffet, sitting at your table with a huge plate of food is the end goal, but it's best not to put food in your mouth until you reach that pinnacle moment. It may seem pertinent to taste the goods before committing to putting them on your plate, but refrain from doing so while in the buffet line. Not only could this taste testing hold up the line, but it's actually pretty gross. Even if you're careful and use a clean fork, you can very well contaminate the food with your own spit. Your saliva could easily get in the spread of food when you open your mouth to eat, especially if you're talking. Just as much as you don't want someone's mouth juice in your food, pay it forward and make sure yours stays where it belongs to. Watching someone grab something from the buffet with their bare hands can be pretty off-putting, and it makes you wonder what else on your plate has been touched by someone's grubby paws. Each dish has its own serving utensils for a reason, so use them and refrain from touching any food or the food-facing ends of the utensils with your hands. Another good idea for practicing proper buffet etiquette is putting the utensils back in their designated spaces. If the various spoons and tongs aren't where they are supposed to be, people will naturally be less likely to use them. They will then be forced to either use their hands or another dish's serving utensil, which will then mix separate flavors together and create an all-around icky situation. You never know if someone could be avoiding a certain dish due to an allergy as well, so utensils always need to stick to their own dish. While you're in the buffet line, try to keep your mouth closed. That means refraining from yawning, coughing, or sneezing. If you can't help it, make sure to cover your mouth, sneeze into your elbow, and change your direction when coughing to face away from the food. If you know you are sick, it's probably best to stay home and hold off going out to a buffet until you're not a risk to other people. If you start not feeling well at dinner, have someone else load up your plate to avoid having buffet dishes become contaminated with whatever bacteria or virus you may have. A buffet usually has a sneeze guard to help protect the food from, well, sneezes. This sheet of plastic is a last line of defense though, and you should always be actively attempting to get through the buffet line without spraying any saliva or germs. This guard is also there to deter people from putting their faces too close to the food, so it's best to respect that boundary and don't duck your head underneath it. It may be the buffet staff's job to help keep everything stocked and looking nice, but it's also your responsibility to do the same as a diner. Accidents happen, of course, but in the few seconds it takes you to scoop out a dish, try to leave the space as tidy as you found it so that everyone else in line has a decent experience. It's also wise to pay attention to your clothes or jewelry as you reach across dishes to serve yourself. Long, flowy sleeves or a loose bracelet could fall or dip into a serving platter. Not only will this contaminate the entire spread, but a food-covered sleeve isn't exactly ideal either. Maybe you think that you're doing the restaurant a favor or being eco-conscious by reusing your buffet plate, but it's actually frowned upon to not use a clean plate for each and every round of food gathering. There is a large amount of bacteria on your used plate, from silverware entering your mouth and then touching the plate, and leaving your dirty plate behind helps lessen the risk of contamination. The buffet area should have towering piles of plates anyway. If they are in short supply though, it's better to ask a staff member for more clean plates than it is to revert back to the one you've already used. Buffets are all you can eat, but before grabbing a lot of everything just because you can, make sure you can actually handle that big amount of food.
Looks like someone took the sign as a personal challenge.
Doreen, I'm just warming up.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with loading your plate up, but be sure that you can actually handle it. At the heart of the matter, though, there really is no reason to take so much at one time. The great thing about a buffet is that there is no rush or sense of urgency, and you can go up to get more food practically as many times as you want. In fact, putting a lot of one food item on your plate may end up hurting you in the long run. If your plate is full of appetizers before you get to the main course, you may be too full to enjoy later rounds. Scoping out the buffet before getting in line is a great way to avoid this situation. It's also good to note that if you do end up with a lot of wasted food, you may even be charged a fee. Buffets can be a great way to introduce kids to different foods and fill up their bellies affordably. However, like all restaurants, a buffet should have some safety guidelines when it comes to children. Not only is it frustrating to dodge little humans who are sometimes hard to see, but it can be dangerous. Knocking into someone carrying hot food could result in some serious burns to both parties, too. If your children are maybe too young to go through the buffet line themselves, it's best to fill their plate for them. This helps keep the line moving, and it's more sanitary since kids aren't as knowledgeable about food safety and cleanliness.
We've stopped letting children come to the buffet by themselves.
In all-you-can-eat scenarios, you can of course take as much of a dish as your heart desires. However, it's good to give some thought to the next guy and refrain from loading up your plate with the last 10 sets of crab legs. If you see a serving platter only has a few pieces of an item left, don't empty it. This is an extra important rule if the item in question is a popular, well-sought-after dish. On the other hand, there might be quite a lot of a food item left when you get to it. It's still kind of questionable if you should load up on it or not. If the buffet isn't crowded, you may be able to get away with this without coming off as inconsiderate. If there's a long line behind you, however, let some others have their chance at the dish too. There will be fresh plates coming, and you can return to the line for seconds when they do. Restaurant etiquette goes a long way while in close quarters with other hungry people. If you're in the buffet line, it's best to maintain some personal space like you would do in other crowded scenarios. While it's okay to wait patiently for a dish that someone else is currently interacting with, keep a respectful distance and do not lurk closely behind them. If they're taking longer than you'd like, simply wait your turn with a smile. Also, when it comes to looking for more food to come out of the kitchen, it's good to maintain that same patience rather than swooping in like a hawk to its prey once the food does hit the buffet line. Lurking can apply to the restaurant experience as a whole as well. Believe it or not, buffets sometimes have time limits or even food limits. You can actually be kicked out of a buffet for eating too much.
No. Hey. We're done. That was your last plate for today. You have 4 plates. Too much food. I'm cutting you off. That's all.
Buffets are typically a one-way operation, and it's frowned upon to go against the flow of hungry people traffic. When you buck against the directional flow of the buffet line, chaos ensues. Humans are like herd animals after all, and if one person goes against the grain, others are bound to follow. Buffet employees have the plates and dishes set up strategically as well, and it throws a wrench in their plan to go rogue. If there are no dinner plates where you're starting, that's your hint that you're probably at the wrong end of the buffet. You should also refrain from doubling back at any point. You can always get back in line or go up for single items, but once you pass by a dish, you've basically relinquished your right to it in line. When you start crossing arms with other diners, the chances of contaminating the food with accidental spills and touches increases. Plus, there's really no good reason to invade another person's space. Buffets may be all you can eat, but the metaphorical fine print specifies that you must eat all you can while in the actual restaurant. Almost all buffet-style restaurants do not set out boxes at all for this reason, and would be hesitant to give you one if specifically asked. Some diners try to sneak in their own containers, but this comes with risks. It can actually be considered theft, and you could be charged a fee, kicked out, or even added to the banned customers list. If you do end up obtaining a takeout box from a staff member, you will almost certainly be charged a fee. Some buffets do have takeout deals, which are either charged by the pound or by the box. Other times, a box from the buffet would cost the same as your individual entrance fee. This makes sense if you don't want to dine in or are getting food to go for a family member not present, but may be a stretch for taking home leftovers. While it's always good to be extra nice to service workers, this goes double for people who are handling your food. A buffet-style restaurant offers a bit less face-to-face interaction with staff, but you're still likely to see them around. A buffet has a lot of moving parts, so there is typically more staff around than a full-service spot. This means that your service staff are working hard to communicate with each other to give the best service and experience possible, so please be appreciative of their efforts. If you happen to come across a food item that needs refilling, ask the staff nicely about replenishing the plate. Once you are finished with your plates, set them to the side for a server to come collect. Upon cashing out, 10% is largely considered to be an appropriate buffet tip. Keep in mind that this tip is likely shared with other staff members, such as bussers.